Hello, everyone. Excited to see a pretty full virtual room here. We've got about a half a dozen board members and a few invited guests and about a dozen or more community members. Thank you for joining tonight. Sean Besser here. This is my first meeting as president of OPA. I apologize in advance for any stumbles or fumbles I make. I'm going to do my best, particularly on time management, in large part because we do have a pretty full agenda. We're excited to have the police department start off with an update around some of their activities and information in and around Ocean Park. We've got new council member Torosis joining around 7:30. We have Nina Fresco to talk about some planning commissioner matters, Adriana Aguilar regarding Wellbeing Microgrants, and Carla Rosin regarding the farmers market. So I want to kick it off with Officer Albert and Halima from Santa Monica Police Department, because I know they've got to jump around. So please, thanks for making time for us, and would love to hear some of your thoughts.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Sorry, just a heads up, I'm kind of losing my voice, so I might have a little trouble here, but Officer Albert will be helping me out as well. So I'm going to go over some of just the highlights that I saw and what we saw mostly happening in the Ocean Park area. In the next month, I know there was a couple questions that came up last meeting regarding some traffic stuff. So we're going to actually have somebody from our traffic department, one of our motors officers, coming next month to do a little presentation. So if you have any particular questions that are related to traffic, you can go ahead and send them my way for the next meeting, or just think of anything in particular you would want to ask that unit, so that as you will be aware that there'll be that focus happening. So for today, I'll go ahead and talk about our stats. Officer Navarro is not here today, but Officer Albert is our Beat 4 Neighborhood Resource Officer. So he's helping me out today. So in the Ocean Park area, there were 40 incidents that occurred. Of those 40 incidents, 63% were larcenies. So I'm going to break that down. Larcenies are thefts. So we had 2 that were thefts that were like a pickpocket category. 1 was, or 2 were from buildings, so that's like a minor like shoplifting type of theft. And then the majority was broken down into 2 different categories, and one was vehicle break-ins and the other one was auto part thefts, and it was 8 and 8 of those, so the same number. So the vehicle break-ins are your window smashes, and kind of getting into a vehicle, they see something that might appear to be of value of any sort, and they necessarily don't only target a particular type of vehicle here, but this is just something that we tend to see, especially near the beach areas. The auto part thefts, these are the catalytic converter thefts. So for the Ocean Park area, I think this is a little higher. It had started to kind of decrease. We don't normally see as many in this region. The majority that we see are in Sunset Park area or in the Beat 4 area. And I know Officer Albert could kind of attest to that as well. So we did have 8 though. We had an etch and catch last week where we had a pretty good show out of people that came out to have their catalytic converter etched. And one thing that I learned here that I wanted to share was that I always kind of talk about the cages to they're the most foolproof method of ensuring that your catalytic converter is not stolen. However, in these conversations I was having with people, I had a couple of people share with me that they had had their catalytic converter stolen after installing the cage. And it got me wondering, what is this? Because this is what I've been recommending. So the things that I learned were that, they're not all made the same. They're not all created equal here. You want to look at exactly how it's built. And a lot of the mistakes that we make in this situation is we don't necessarily see, because it's underneath your vehicle, you don't really see what's happening down there, what it's going to look like. So the ones that they had purchased were literally just kind of a cage around the catalytic converter. But what the issue was that it had a gap at the top where people could still reach their hand in, and that's what happened. They were able to reach their hand inside and still cut the catalytic converter out. They also sell other ones that have these kind of like wirings that wrap around the catalytic converter. those seem to be pretty good because although those can be cut, it takes a while to be able to cut all of the different little wiring around it. So the idea behind it is that these type of crimes are quick, and that's why they tend to be very difficult to catch, because they're very fast. They happen within minutes, and then they take off. So if the thief is under your vehicle and they're seeing something like that, they know this is going to take a long time, and it's going to make it more difficult to be able to get away in time. So when you are purchasing one of these are the things you want to look into and consider, and before you buy or make the decision of which type of cage you're going to be installing. And just, look at reviews, kind of just do your due diligence. I don't have a particular one to recommend, and we don't usually do recommendations for particular brands or anything like that. But my recommendation is ensuring that you are doing your due diligence in that research. And again, they're not all created equal, so pricing might vary, but not just because it's a little cheaper doesn't mean it's going to be a good one, or just because it's very expensive doesn't mean it's going to be a good one. So you want to look at kind of all these different things and what's going to make it harder to access the catalytic converter. So just something I want to highlight that I've been learning about recently. And then the other category that was the second highest was residential burglaries, and that was in 18%. Just burglaries. So 18% were burglaries. Of those 18%, 5 were residential and 2 were non-residential, so commercial burglaries. From those residential burglaries and doing research of what kind of happened, there were 2 that were garage break-ins, so like your subterranean garages entering, and one of them was actually a catalytic converter that was stolen from a garage. So it was labeled under residential burglary because of the attachment of the garage. And then there was another one where somebody cuts a window screen to access a porch to try to steal a bike. And as we've discussed in the past, with bikes, they do tend to be targeted, which is why the garage break-ins tend to be high. They know that a lot of people will store their bikes in the garage, but also in the porch. When I've done security assessments, it's something that I've noticed is people might leave their bikes in their porch area. They're easily visible from the outside. It's just kind of something to consider because it does become attractive because bikes are targeted. So if there is a different place where you can place the bike or shield it from view, or again, you can also call us for a security assessment, and we can kind of look at different ways to kind of increase the security around the space in the way that you can access the space. And so I've done a couple of those in the last couple of weeks. We have put them up on social media, and I think that's kind of attracted more attention, but we're always available to do these security assessments. If you rent, it's always kind of this battle with management sometimes, but it does help because you have something from the police department written up with our badge on it saying, this is our recommendation. Nothing has to be done necessarily, but it is what we would recommend as far as safety goes. And we encourage people to be proactive rather than reactive. So we don't need to wait for something to happen, to actually have this security assessment done or have us come out there. But that was all I had to cover. So I will open it up for questions unless Officer Albert has something to cover.
Just want to circle back on these catalytic converter thefts. So in OPA, there was 8. In beat 4, we had 38 out of the total of 66 citywide. So this catalytic converter theft is a big issue for not just our city, but even our partner agencies. And the reason why it's difficult to stop this crime is when we do catch one set of individuals, another set just come and replace them the next day. It's also hard because these individuals know that we will not pursue for a non-violent property crime. It's inherently dangerous when these individuals do not stop when police are using their red light and siren to affect a traffic stop. What they do is they do what's called blacking out. They turn off all their lights and they flee at a high rate of speed. So they're endangering the public, and we're not going to further that by going in pursuit for a nonviolent property crime. And then also, it's very hard to track these catalytic converters, and it's a quick way to sell the catalytic converter to get money. Another thing that I see in my beat is a lot of mail theft and porch theft. So if you can sign up for USPS free service informed delivery, that's a free service where the USPS, they scan all your mail so you know what's coming and when it's coming to your home. And then for the bike thefts, I recommend a strong U-lock. The more the merrier. 2 is preferable on the frame and on the wheel that's attached to the bike. And then the AirTag, you can also hide it inside of the bike itself. And the battery on that lasts around 2 years. So I don't want to take any more of your time, but thank you for having us.
Cool. No, thank you both. I see Jeff Jarrow has his hand up.
Hi, quick question. Are the catalytic converters being stolen for the metal, or are they being stolen to replace in other cars?
They're being stolen for the precious metal. Some cars even have 2 catalytic converters. All the catalytic converters that I've seen stolen in the last month were Toyota Priuses.
Is there a year? I have an older car, so I'm just curious if they would take it out of mine.
It's pretty specific to the vehicle. I think the more gas efficient vehicles are more sought after because there's more precious metal in the converter themselves.
Okay.
Thank you. Robbie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for being here. Just had a quick question about some of the homeless encampments that had been over by Rose Avenue, just across the border outside of OPA. It looks like those have been kind of like moved out over the last few weeks. Is that something that you guys are coordinating with other services on? Just curious kind of like how that's going and then where those individuals are ending up.
I can't speak to what happens outside of the city of Santa Monica.
Oh, that's fine. My bad.
I believe where you're talking about is the city of Los Angeles. And I know it does get highlighted sometimes at Santa Monica close-up. Fabian has the handle Santa Monica close-up. So even when he's filming stuff happening in Venice, it gets tagged as Santa Monica. But we don't have really any involvement down off of Rose in the LA area.
Okay, no worries. Thanks.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you both for making time for us tonight. The updates are always super interesting and valuable, and the tips in particular. I actually have put an AirTag myself under hidden on my bike, and I love having it there.
And so one last thing, I do want to leave you guys with 2 links. I'll try and put it in the chat. One is if you see encampments or people on the freeway of the embankments, there is a portal where you can submit an online request to Caltrans. Since it's state property, Caltrans is going to be the authority that cleans up the embankments. So we need to really submit requests to them. Very similar to like an LA HOP for homeless encampments, where these homeless encampments are really entrenched. And then a second link is for abandoned or unattended shopping carts. So sometimes you may see like a shopping cart with a ton of property, but if it's a Ralph's or a Vaughn's or a Rite Aid, you can submit this request and this organization comes and returns the shopping cart. So it's a great way to kind of take the criminality out of it and just return the shopping cart by also solving a problem. So I'll send those links. I think Halima may have those links, but I'll try and put them in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you both for making time tonight, and please keep great work.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great night. We'll let you go. Want to introduce Nina Fresco, who I think some of you know is a planning commissioner for the city. She's prepared to talk with us a little bit about some of the possible district commercial district zoning changes that are being discussed in and around the city, and what the impacts could be, and what you as members of Ocean Park and OPA might be able to do to weigh in on that. So I want to hand the floor over to you, Nina.
Hi, everybody. So I'm here to talk about something the Planning Commission has been advocating for a long time, months and months and months, through this whole housing element process that somehow didn't make it into the final plan. And we are recommending to City Council that it was something that with further research and further information could be supported by HCD, because it's a social justice issue. So basically, I don't know how wonky I should go in this crowd, but basically we have this housing element. It's a law. It says we have to build a certain number of units. I'm sure you've heard about the 8,800 odd units we're required to build. The housing element is our plan for getting those constructed. We're supposed to demonstrate through all kinds of policies, programs, and zoning changes that we have the capacity to build those units in Santa Monica in the amount of time, because we identify a set of sites that are likely to turn over the next 8 years, and then we set them up with zoning that will incentivize that turnover and allow them to deliver the number of sites. So that's what we've been doing for 2 years, and or more. I think in 2019 we started. That's 4 years. So as this project progressed, it's extremely detailed and complicated, and involves reading lots of complicated documents over and over again. We saw that we got to a certain point where staff was recommending the upzoning of all of the city's commercial districts to 55 feet, and Main Street was recommended at 65 feet. And this is before housing density bonuses. And the whole city, all of the commercial districts would be even at 55 feet. And the commission took one look at that and said, well, that's not planning. That's, using feasibility. That's like planning by numbers and not by values. So, or all the other things we want in the city. So we basically, but it was also very soon before the deadline to submit the thing. So we submit the housing element with a little asterisk next to the zoning plan saying that we promise to maintain or increase the capacity as written, but we might move things around. And that was one of the things, there were many, it wasn't just us, that the HCD did not like about the first housing element. And so as soon as we sent it in, before we knew they didn't even like it, we did the research, we came up with a plan that dramatically upzones boulevards that are wide, that can handle tall buildings, that don't have any apartments on them, and that don't have clusters of businesses that have a particular character that are valuable to neighborhoods the way neighborhood commercial districts do. And by shifting that density there, the plan was to protect all of our, what they call naturally occurring affordable units, which are rent controlled units that either haven't been decontrolled yet or were decontrolled long enough ago that we still have low income and moderate income people and seniors living in them. So we really wanted to protect them. And we saw that if we upzoned the neighborhood commercial districts, which ran right through these areas where all these people were living, that it would raise property values and continue to accelerate economic pressure on those neighborhoods and cause more low-income people to move out. So that was our plan. one way or another, it didn't end up in the final plan. So now we would, but the Planning Commission continues to believe that is the right path for the best possible city that protects the most possible humans. So now we're asking City Council to do the upzoning because we have to, and we committed to it, but also to file a proper, polite, legal, and appropriate application to HCD, seeing if we can revise that and to provide documentation for why we believe it furthers affirmatively furthers fair housing and has major social justice implications. So what are those implications? So for one thing, as we all know, gentrification causes displacement, but the new buildings are required to replace any rent-controlled units that might have been removed where they were, which is something we tried really hard not to set up anything for, and also have to provide a certain percentage of new deed-restricted affordable inclusionary units. So with that, we do keep the number of affordable units in the city and the balance of quantitative diversity in the city, but diversity and maintaining diversity in a city, according to the state, is based on units, widgets, not humans. So when you upzone and displacement directly and indirectly because of rising property values occurs, more people get displaced from their homes, and they may be replaced with new people of similar income levels, but that doesn't change the catastrophic impact that this change had on the original people who lived there. So basically what we're looking at is when you have the neighborhood commercial districts and this upzoning occurs next to these neighborhoods with all of these low-income rent-controlled units, you lose these local neighborhood serving businesses that are small, that are run by people from the community who meet the needs of the community, who welcome all kinds of people from the community because they understand the populations in the neighborhood, they understand their needs, and it becomes the fabric of integration. So without neighborhood commercial districts, when you have diversity widgets of units in new buildings that are isolated among market rate buildings, you're still creating what they call micro segregation, which are small groups of people in various ethnic, racial, or cultural areas that stick together and don't have opportunities to meet with new people or with people from other groups even. So so those neighborhood commercial businesses, once you incentivize redevelopment, so one gets displaced, a shiny new apartment building comes in, that's great, we get more units, we need more units, nobody has a problem with that. But, I'm sorry, this is so complicated. But now people who felt like they belonged in a neighborhood have lost a business that maybe they knew and loved, maybe not. But either way, now these new businesses have big, expensive financing, and they have pro formas that basically make it so now the ground floor commercial has to have a larger floor plate and needs to be rented to a more deep-pocketed corporate chain store kind of operation that can't adapt to the neighborhood. They have to stick to their corporate culture, and those businesses may often be attractive to the new residents in the new building who pay the market rate rents, but the people who've been there all along start to feel disenfranchised. And then these big businesses create competition that those smaller businesses can't keep up with. Basically it creates a snowball effect where the businesses go, the property values rise even faster than they do now. I'm not saying that none of this isn't already happening because it is, but we don't need to speed it up and incentivize it. We need to try to control it if we can, because ultimately, in the end, in these neighborhoods, this becomes the new tool of systemic racism. This is a tool when you upzone everything uniformly in a city, it has the same effect of creating quantified widget diversity, but the personal human impacts in low-income neighborhoods is dramatic and much more intense than in wealthier areas, and those people are gone. And that's the end of Santa Monica. Santa Monica becomes richer and whiter and richer and whiter. And that's why we are asking for this change. And if I confused anyone, I'm happy to try to clarify.
There's a lot going on there, Nina. So thank you for trying to break it down. I'm guessing some people have some questions, though I don't see any hands up yet. I will preempt some of those questions by saying I know a lot of people want to be able to weigh in and express their opinion to the council in advance of tomorrow's meeting, where I believe this is on the agenda to be discussed, I'm guessing at length. And so one of the things I want to sort of ask you is, what are the best avenues for individuals to be able to both express themselves and potentially amplify their voices? OPA will obviously be discussing this today in terms of what, if, and how to weigh in as well. But just want to put that out there for the individuals. And then I see Judy's hand up, which when you after you answer that, I'll throw to her.
So tomorrow night is the beginning of a series of study sessions at City Council, where they will be covering this. And because if those study sessions extend over a period of meetings, it will be a continuance. Tomorrow is your only opportunity to make a public comment on this. So I encourage you guys to all send letters. And if you can show up, that would be great too, because they only take verbal comments in person at City Council these days.
Gotcha. And my understanding is the email address, which I'll put in the chat, is councilmeetingitems@santamonica.gov, and they all have to be submitted by noon tomorrow to get on the agenda. Does that sound correct?
That is correct. Although if you also CC council members at their individual council addresses, it will go into their inboxes, and there is a slight chance that they might have an opportunity to peek at them before they go into the meeting, depending on when they get them and how much time they have.
Good. I'll put that information in the chat for everybody. Judy, you had your hand up first.
Basically, I totally agree with what Nina has said about how this could change the whole nature of our community. What I think is a major issue is, if you look at Main Street, you see a bunch of small businesses in smaller kinds of buildings. If we start to allow, through zoning, those parcels to be
Consolidated.
Consolidated, I guess is a good word for it. If somebody can come in and purchase several buildings together, tear them down, and then build one big building with housing above, housing can be built above anyway, but if they build a big retail underneath, it's unlikely to be a small neighborhood serving business. It's much more likely to be a big chain store. And that really changes the nature of what the street has always been about. Now, I'm very pro housing, and I think it's fine to build housing on top of retail buildings. That I'm not against, but what I am against is having all of a sudden the ability of somebody to swoop in and buy a half a block, or, you know, a quarter of a block, and build some big building that changes the nature of what our community is about. That's my opinion.
Thank you for sharing. Jeff, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple of observations. Hey, Nino, has anybody discussed Santa Monica Boulevard as one of our ugliest boulevards with nothing but car dealerships? That could be, you know, we could retain the dealerships and build something over them instead of, it's not retail friendly. It's not anything. They've talked about it for as long as I've been living here, and nothing's ever been done to Santa Monica Boulevard.
So in our new plan, Santa Monica Boulevard will be upzoned to 70 feet. And the car dealerships are all really interested in adapting to a new model of car dealership where all the cars are indoors and not outdoors. And so that they are in favor of this idea that they can have their car dealerships on the ground floor and 6 floors of housing above, and it's a win-win-win. And
That's
we've
right.
done things like that on those big boulevards for sure.
So,
And-
and the other, yeah,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I
I
was
was
gonna,
just gonna say that what Judy mentioned about housing, affordable housing, 100% affordable housing can to this day and in the future, if this goes through, be built on Main Street as is with their housing bonuses, because they get all the height that they can use based on the financing that they get. So it doesn't have any impact on our ability to provide affordable housing.
and
Sorry, go ahead.
last question was, we have the airport coming up in a few years. I mean, maybe instead of like, you know, demolishing half the city to put the mandate of housing, can't we wait and do it at the airport area? There's plenty of room there to build whatever we want. And, you know, by building anything close to the beach, you're ruining that view corridor that we've fought for many years. And I'm not saying not to build housing, but surely the east end of town, where it's open area, you could sure build a lot, and you could spread it out. You don't have to go up 70 feet. You could keep it a lot less.
Maybe
Anyway.
next cycle.
Maybe next cycle.
We have to do this now, and we should do it now. And I just want to iterate another thing Judy said, which is that the planning commissioners who are in favor of this are all really pro-housing, and we understand what our arena is, and we want to provide even more than that in order to relieve pressure on housing regionally, which is a true fact that does happen. And we support that. We just don't want to do it where it will basically kick out people who've lived here for generations and don't have the ability to pay rent in new housing, or wait for new housing to be built so that they can move into inclusionary units. We just lose those people.
Thank you. Thanks for the good questions, Jeff. I want to be conscious of your time. I know it's getting late, and I don't see any other hands up. So thank you for making time to.
Can I just ask a couple quick questions?
Go for it.
Raise your hand.
So I try. So it seems to me that what you're asking, Nina, is for us to write the council, to encourage them to write the state, asking for an exemption to the housing element. And I understand that to be pretty clear. So I want to ask, what is the risk of the city asking the state to take that action? And then what did the planning commission basically discuss in terms of what the risk is? How did they justify that risk?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I can't believe I forgot to address it, because it's one of the most important questions there is. basically, right now we have a compliant housing element. So we are in a no risk zone. And the Planning Commission is recommending that, as right now we're in the beginning of the implementation process, which means that we do the things we said we were going to do in the housing element. And among them, we said we were going to upzone these neighborhood commercial districts to 55 feet. So we're going to do that. That's going to happen, and we will stay in compliance. Now, the way a housing element amendment request happens is we basically apply to HCD. Our current housing element that is compliant stays right where it is. Nothing changes as long as we follow the rules. It's all good. And we send them a packet with red lines and justification. We show that basically there's almost no parcels on the SSI, the suitable sites inventory, that's going to provide our RENA allocation, that there's very few on neighborhood commercial districts. It impacts literally 1% of the 153% of housing capacity units we have demonstrated. So we show them that. We show them all that kind of stuff, our social justice arguments. I've written a white paper about it that will talk about exactly the detail that references scholarly research on this topic and the impacts of gentrifying neighborhood commercial districts too quickly in low-income neighborhoods and ethnic neighborhoods. And if they say, okay, this looks good, this looks like something we could approve, then we go through a process where the Planning Commission adopts red lines. They send them to the City Council, they send them to HCD, we change the zoning, and it's good. If they say they don't like it and we can't do it, then that's the end of it, and our compliant housing element stays right smack where it is, and nothing changed, and there wasn't a risk. We are not defying them. We are following the rules, and we are trying to add new information and new research to the discussion.
So that's what the Planning Commission thinks the state's response will be. Oh, it's not good. Oh, right. That's basically what I hear you saying.
Yeah, our planning staff asked HCD and took notes and wrote it in the staff report and reported it back to us. So if that's not what we think will happen, that's what HCD told our staff would happen.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you for the good questions, John. And again, Nina, unless there's anything closing out in terms of sort of action items that OPA or any attendees should be taking, I just want to sort of thank you for your time and both on the Planning Commission and to go around on and educate people like us on some of these issues.
All I can say is write and show up and bring your Valentine, and we'll see you there.
Thank you. If for everyone in attendance, I put in the chat the email address. If you can't be there in person, please check the chat or follow up with me later if you need more information. Thank you again, Nina.
Thank you.
Councilmember Torosis joined the meeting a few minutes ago and has been listening in patiently. Thank you so much for making time to join us tonight. I want to introduce you to the OPA community here. I'm sure a lot of us are already familiar with you. You've been serving the city for years in many capacities. But I want to hand the floor over to you just to say a few words to all of us in attendance and see if any community members have any questions of you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sean, and apologies. I'm actually doing triple duty tonight, so apologies that I can't be with you for longer. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Carolyn Torosis. I'm newly elected to the Santa Monica City Council, having previously served the last 6 years on the Rent Control Board. In my day job, I'm an attorney, and I'm the Senior Policy Advisor to Holly Mitchell on economic and workforce development. So of course, neighborhood commercial, very important to me from an economic development and small business perspective. Happy to talk a little bit about what we've been up to. It sounds like this group is pretty well informed. I know some of you attend our meetings regularly, but as you saw at our last meeting in January, we are starting a process to plan for the airport. I want to be very clear that no decisions were made at the last council meeting. It truly was a study session. And so I call you all to action to say, When we choose the firm that we are going to use for this community engagement and visioning process, we are going to need non-traditional forms of community engagement. We're going to need your voices. We're going to need diverse voices. And so really it's what does this land look like? To Jeff's point, to everyone else's point here, we have not made a definitive decision to close the airport. So that question still remains. And then of course, what the airport is planned for. The staff presented a great park kind of configuration. I think that is fantastic. We have a lot of beautiful cultural assets that we can highlight here. And then if any of you have ever been to the airport, just the actual view from the runway is quite beautiful. So this is, I think, a once in a generation opportunity to get it right. So hopefully we're all going to be chatting for years to come about this. Additionally, something that some of you might not know is that on March 11th, we have a city council retreat. There are a lot of elements that are going to be discussed at that retreat, including planning for how we move forward with some of the ballot initiatives that passed in November, how we plan for that funding that's going to be coming in. And then also, how do we look at housing and homelessness as our top priority here in the city? You may have heard that there's a proposal on the table to split our community services department into two new departments, one focusing on housing and homelessness, one focusing on parks and cultural affairs. Certainly having feedback from this community is really important to me. And then another thing that I wanted to mention, because I know everyone here is very smart and involved, something that I've been pushing our city manager and city staff to do is to leverage non-general fund money. You might know that we're in a very tight financial situation right now for a number of reasons, COVID being one of them, but also the significant amount of lawsuit settlements that we have had to do and are coming up against now. There are billions, literally, of dollars of federal relief available through the bipartisan infrastructure law, through the Inflation Reduction Act, and of course, the American Rescue Plan. And I've really been pushing our staff to figure out how do we get our equitable share of that money, and then how do we also work with philanthropic partners and foundational partners around grant writing to make sure that we are competitive for that money. I am tired of hearing we have no money to do this. I think we need to be innovative, and that's what I push in my day job and what I'm pushing with our current city manager. And then finally, I'll say that something very important and close to my heart is our work that still has to move forward around the Black apology and the work that the Committee for Racial Justice has been doing really for years at this point. You may know that we have several city-owned assets that we could potentially repurpose around the discussion of reparations, home ownership, et cetera. And so that's something that is important to me that I plan to dig into in the coming months. So with that being said, I'm sure there's a lot of background noise because I'm outside right now. But if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your priorities. Excited to have you on the city council. I know you're tight on time. I don't see any hands up at the moment. So I'm going to let you step back into your meeting unless that changes in the next 5 seconds.
Unless there's any priorities that I didn't mention that people want me to be aware of, in addition to safe and clean and economic recovery and solving our homeless crisis, those are the top priorities of the council. But I was trying to infuse a little bit of the Carolyn Torosis priorities here.
Cool. I do see a couple hands up from Eliezer and then Jerry. Hope you have a couple minutes to respond. Eliezer, do you want to go first?
Yeah, can you comment on what we just talked about in your position on this planning commission request to change the housing element?
Sure, absolutely. I've seen the effects at a countywide and also statewide level of non-compliant housing elements. I'm very, very concerned about, first and foremost, making sure that we have a compliant housing element by October, that we are zoning appropriately. So the housing element has already committed to upzoning neighborhood commercial portions of boulevards. We know that is what was put forward and approved by HCD. I am absolutely okay with exploring options to revise the housing element, only after we put forward a zoning plan that would be in line with what we promised HCD under the current housing element. I personally know folks at HCD. You might have seen the Politico article about the statewide kind of sentiments around housing and how seriously the state is cracking down on this. And I would just say that I'm reticent to do anything that would have a builder's remedy 2.0 happen in Santa Monica, because I think that is more detrimental than anything else. So I am absolutely concerned about our small businesses. I'm concerned about lot consolidation. I'm concerned about keeping our businesses in place. But I would rather negotiate with HCD after we have an approved zoning plan to move forward here. And so that would be just my personal thoughts. But I am very aware that the majority of emails that I've received to my city council account have misinformation about what's actually happening here. And I think that we have a few neighborhood groups, not this one, that are stoking real fears in residents. And that is what I'm concerned about. So I do plan to address some of the misinformation tomorrow at the council meeting.
Thank you. Jerry, I think you had your hand up next, followed by Jean-Paul.
Thank you very, very much, Carolyn, and thank you, OPA. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And I was wondering if you might be able to address, I think it was postponed at the last meeting, the issue of sustainability in the city of Santa Monica, which is a biggie, and so many things are tied in with that economically and every other way. So I think that's great. And Santa Monica has always been a proud city that promoted sustainability. Any thing you want to share on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are revisiting that. That was just postponed to this meeting. We are revisiting that at this meeting to hear a full report on the plan. I for one am very committed to the place that we have positioned ourselves as a leader regionally around sustainability. I'm very proud of that. I think we do have some folks who are potentially less concerned, or I shouldn't say concerned, not prioritizing sustainability as a top priority as we have in the past. And rest assured, I've talked with the city manager that this definitely needs to be at the forefront as a priority as we continue to lead regionally.
Thank you. And Jean-Paul, you will get the last question.
Thank you. Jean-Paul's by me. I'm Catherine. Thank you for being here. The airport, to my understanding, brought in significant revenue for the city over many years. I don't know exactly how much, but I'm wondering if you do know on average how much it has brought in over the past several years, and if the proposals for a new function at that site would come even close to bringing in that type of revenue. And if not, where is the city going to get it from? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good question. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, although I did see a pro forma of the last several years. I'm just not remembering right now, but it's in the millions. I will tell you that the staff is not contemplating, well, that's the wrong word. The staff is contemplating multiple different options for how we would generate revenue. I would say there are definitely public-private partnerships on the table. And so that would depend on what types of uses the community really dictates for the site. I'm interested in seeing, how the community engagement goes and what, is it cultural anchors? Is it, museums? Is it recreation space? Is it development, small business community serving, et cetera, retail, et cetera? The other model that's been contemplated is like public subsidy. And so of course that would involve our county partners. So Supervisor Horvath, I know that that's being looked to as certainly a priority partner, as well as state and federal partners. And again, I've told the staff now is the time to be proactive about getting the funding. The problem is that we don't have like a concrete plan in place yet.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I do have one last sort of question, and this is similar to what I was asking Nina. Any advice or best practices for community members who want to lean in or engage more? The obvious is attending meetings and whatnot, but is there any other advice you can give?
Yeah, I would say that I don't want to presuppose how the folks on this meeting feel, but I generally think that OPA has a very nuanced and strategic approach that's in line with like our progressive values regionally. And I would say that there's a lot of advocacy happening right now from other neighborhood groups, and the only voice in the room happens to be the folks who really at least on this housing element issue, are against any sort of approval of the housing element. I can't tell you how many emails I've received about this. Misinformation is rampant, and I just think the more credible voices in the room that we have, the easier and more political cover it gives some of our other folks who are less sure about how they want to decide on these issues, the opportunity to kind of listen to those really well-informed voices. So I would say continue your advocacy. Don't assume that everyone knows your position. Especially don't assume that the council members that you engage with less frequently know your position. So just continue to engage with them.
Thank you.
And I have to go. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you for staying long. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I really appreciate all of you very much. All right, talk to you soon. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thanks, same to you. Enjoy the council meeting on Valentine's Day. By the way, just a preview for next month. I know Carolyn was mentioning David White in some of her conversations. He will be joining our monthly meeting next month, unless something intervenes, but it is on his calendar. And we may also have council member Jesse Zwick joining as well. So just preview for next month if you're marking your calendars. We're running a little long, but we have two more guests who we have on the agenda to speak, and I want to make sure they have time. So I'm going to quickly jump into introducing Adriana Aguilar, who's here to share a little bit of information about the Wellbeing Microgrants. And I'm just going to immediately hand the floor to you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean, for accommodating us on your agenda. Thank you, everyone, for the time and space that you're providing. My name is Adriana Aguilar. I am the Wellbeing Microgram Program Manager, and I'll let my peers introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Lizeth Antonio. I'm the project assistant of the Wellbeing Microgrant Program, and I'm also a neighbor in Santa Monica.
And I'm Catalina Langen. I'm co-founder of Civic Wellbeing Partners with Julie Rusk, who some of you may know. We brought the microgrants from the city to the Santa Monica Bay Human Relations Council and are working with these wonderful ladies who I'll let take it away.
And I'm sharing our contact information, our email and website, so you can also reference the information that we're providing to you. Again, for those who are familiar and for those who don't, the Wellbeing Microgram Program is a project that provides $500 grants to people, possibility and purpose around ideas that could impact community well-being in Santa Monica and beyond throughout West LA. We're looking to fund ideas in which people can manifest their ideas into projects and have a longer impact return to the community and overall the city and the county. And we're looking to partner with you all in promoting this opportunity because we know that you're key organization in the area, and you have people that you connect with on a daily basis through all your community efforts. So we thought that it will be a great opportunity to share with you. The application is now open until March 3rd. In the link where which I share with you, you can see guidelines, important dates. You can see the links for the actual application. We are highly encouraging people to submit their applications online. And we're also having two help sessions, one in person, one online. You'll also find information in our website as well. Our in-person help session is going to happen this upcoming February 25th at Virginia Avenue Park in collaboration with the Greens Festival. And we're aiming to support residents to put their ideas into paper, complete their applications, answer any other questions that they may have. We are, even though we're offering those two spaces, we are also available via email to respond any questions that people may have. So we trust that by sharing this opportunity with you all, one, you're gonna share it with all your networks and at least get one person to apply to this great opportunity. And two, we're also looking to strengthen our partnership with OPA. I know in the past, there was a strong partnership with the program. And now, congratulations to Sean and Patty for the new appointees in this organization. So I'm trusting that we can further our partnership and see ways of engaging community members to these opportunities, and also informing our members about your efforts. I know you have a great newsletter that I have had the opportunity to read through on different issues. So there's a possibility there to collaborate if you, as representative of your own organization, want to also schedule a presentation or ask us to go and support your members on how to submit their applications, we can also do that. So it's basically 3 asks: sharing it with your networks, 2, strengthening a partnership with OPA, and 3, even extending it to your particular individual organizations that you're representing to. That being said, it's open to all ages. We are asking any community member who want to apply. It's welcome. They can be in Santa Monica, they can be throughout West LA. It can be monolingual speakers, bilingual speakers. It's all access open to every single resident that have ideas that want to impact community well-being. And by that being said, are there any questions or any comments around this?
First of all, thank you all for making time tonight. And this is something OPA is going to be looking into, and I encourage community members as well. It's a tremendous program. You're going to see some more information in Thursday's newsletter as well on the program if you need more information there. Jeff, is that your hand?
Just one quick question. What's the highest amount of grants given out? 500, like in the past?
Up to today, we have granted around 73 grants per round. We give up to 15 rounds.
I'm sorry.
Grants of $500.
500. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Natalia.
Could you give maybe a couple of examples of past microgrants recipients or projects that have been funded?
Lisa, Carolina, will you mind sharing any examples?
Sure. Maybe I'll give one, Lizette, you pop in with another one. I think about in our most recent round, we had a really beautiful community sound bath and healing circle hosted by our friend Indy Rishi Singh, who is a really just amazing speaker, leader, community person, but he really engaged participants at Virginia Avenue Park in this sort of open space, brought in some other musicians and aligned healers to create a space that was open to community of people of all ages, and really saw some great success there. And Lizette, do you want to share another one?
Yeah, so I was actually a recipient as well, and I led a microgrant project for teaching community members how to sew their own face mask during COVID-19. That was during the beginning of the pandemic. So this was a virtual class, and it was offered in both Spanish and English, and open to teenagers, to adults. So our program is really based on focusing on 5 topics or themes of the Wellbeing Index, and that's economic opportunity, health, community, learning, and what's the last one? Place and planet. So that can be anything about like sustainability.
Great. Thank you. Good question, Natalia. Thank you. And I hope that seeds some ideas with everyone. Please, there's some information in the chat. And again, I'll be including more information in Thursday's newsletter as well. Spread the word. Thank
And
you all for.
lastly, beyond the funding, we also provide technical assistance, whether it could be outreach, branding around the project, and also opportunities to further their leadership development. So it's not only the grants that we provide the whole package.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate the time tonight, ladies. Thank you for staying up late with us.
Thanks for having us.
But I want to hand the floor over quickly to our last guest, Carla Rosin, to talk about what's coming up at the farmers market.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to make this really brief. There's a couple of things that are really super exciting. We do have Market Match for the first time and the market coming this Sunday. And if you're not familiar, that is a match for CalFresh recipients to up to $20. So we're really thrilled to be bringing that to the market and opening up the farmers market to a whole new group of people, getting fresh food to them at a price that they can afford. So especially at a time when their needs are becoming greater and greater. So that's super exciting. We're also opening up the RFP for hot food again, and that'll be coming up in March. So if you know anybody who's been wanting to apply, have them look out for that. And I will send you the RFP once it comes out. And lastly, Mark Lakeman will be coming in April. I think I've mentioned him before. Mark Lakeman's with City Repair Portland, Oregon. He's going to be at the market on April 16th with Santa Monica College that week, meeting with the planning department on the 17th for the city of Santa Monica, and then also with LA Eco Village at the end of the week. So lots of events coming up with him coming into town. And if you are interested in meeting with him, he's really a remarkable person and is interested in connecting with as many people as possible while he's in this area.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for making time for us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Cool. Want to shift into some of the business of OPA. Thank you everyone for all the good questions and engagement. Yes. Want to start with committee updates. I did have a slug in the agenda to talk about vision and goals, but I also want to be conscious of time as it's already after 8 o'clock. I know on a very personal level, some of my goals are to have more engagement from community members and more attendees at these meetings. It's good to see more non-board members than board members in attendance, and that is one of my personal goals this year, is to keep pushing for that, as well as to have more non-board members involved in committees and task forces. And I hope many of you that are not on the board that are here today are interested in possibly getting involved in some way. It doesn't mean a tremendous time commitment. It can be as much or as little as you have available. But the more voices from the community that we have involved in meetings like tonight and involved in our committees and task forces, the better the organization is going to be, and the better the neighborhood's going to be, and the better we are going to be in terms of being a conduit to help the city make decisions that take our needs into account. So thank you for coming tonight, and I hope to see all of you continuing. And that's some of my sort of personal visions and goals as we have time tonight or at the next meeting. We'll dig a little bit more in on this, unless anyone has anyone to speak on that right now. Let's jump into some committee updates. I'm going to kick off with executive committee. The first item of business there is the executive board. Will unfortunately has to step down from his VP position, as I highlighted in an email last week. Just time commitments are too much on his part right now with some school and work and other commitments. He's going to remain on the board, but not on the executive team. Which first I want to see if anybody has any questions or thoughts about him stepping down, but also see about having a discussion about replacing him on the board as well, on the executive board, I mean. Judy.
Well, I am very sorry to see that Will is stepping back, but I think it's for very good reasons. And I would just suggest, Matt, should I nominate somebody to be?
I would welcome nominations. Unless there's an objection, I'm hoping we do have an election of a new VP, as long as there's interested people and no concerns on doing so today.
Well, I would like to place into the mix to nominate Robbie to step up into a VP position.
I would like to second that if Robbie's interested.
Yeah, thanks, Judy and Nick. I've spoken with Will as well, and Sean, and I'd be happy to do that if there's a need.
I'll vote for you.
Before we jump ahead of ourselves, is there anyone else that would like to either nominate themselves or somebody else for the role? Cool. So I'm gonna hand this over to Christina for a vote, unless there's other comments or questions on it.
Are we going to do a roll call? Is that what you want, Sean?
Yep, for elections.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is for Robbie to be the VP by Judy and seconded by Nick. And so let's see, Sean?
Aye, in favor.
Okay. Is Will here? Will's not here. Chris?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Christina, I'm yes. Judy?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Thank you, Zach. Jeff?
Yes.
I already, Ian?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Nick?
Yes.
Okay, did I miss anyone? Okay.
Abstain, or do I vote?
You should ask Robbie.
Robbie, I'm so sorry. That's who I missed. Robbie.
I'll vote for myself, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, Robbie.
Our new VP, ladies and gentlemen. I will get better at this. Congrats, Robbie. Thank you for accepting this.
Thank you, Robbie. It's been great working with you over the last couple years already on Main Street and other stuff. Look forward to doing more.
Too.
Jumping into grant matters. Patty.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. We do have the county grant for $5,000, and what I need is a buying team. I'm not really good at shopping. I'm horrible at shopping, and I know that Zach gave me most of these recommendations. I'm hoping that Zach would maybe help me buy these things before the end of the grants, the grant date, which would, I think, is November. Zach, can you help me?
Yeah, I love spending money. What are we
I know
buying?
that. You also gave me all these suggestions. So that's what I need. I did put the neighborhood grant in about 3 weeks ago to the city. I haven't heard back. That's about $7,000 coming. As soon as I get some news from the city about it, I will let you know. And we have to maybe discuss whether or not we want to do an active newsletter by mail or foot, or if we should just stick with what we're doing at this point. But that's for hopefully next month. And that's all I have on the grants right now.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Jumping over to communications. One of the things we were going to have to discuss as we go through all of the committees and task forces is who is going to be joining which. Last year, it was myself, Judy, Robbie, and a couple other people. Would like to see a couple additional people join it with communications. And I think I sent this out to everyone when I was sort of sending slugs of what everything is in charge of, is we need to do a better job of engaging with the community through our communications efforts. We obviously have the OPA Connects and OPA Update, but need someone to really sort of be spearheading our efforts and being more strategic around how we're engaging with the community. And so if there's anyone else that would like to join the communications committee, it would be great to have one or two more voices on it. Feel free to follow up with me later on that then. I will be reaching out to all board members around this and other committees and task forces, as well as I want to make sure we're doing a better job of getting people on the various committees. Quick update, Judy, do you want to give any quick updates on OPA Connects?
This phone thing, my phone.
Yes, this week we're going to have Lindsay Call from the Office of Emergency Management talk with us about, well, of course, emergency preparedness, but the reason for inviting her was when we looked at what was going on in Turkey and Syria and realized that we could have an earthquake here, as we did a few weeks ago. It wasn't as bad, obviously, but we want to make sure that we're ready if there is an emergency. And so she's going to help us think about it. So that's Wednesday at noon, and I hope everybody will come to it and we'll hear what she has to say, and then we can think about what it is that we want to do individually and as groups. One of the things that happened last week was that, or the week before, was that people started thinking about what they had in their go bag or in their emergency stores of things. And it is time to think about those again, if you haven't thought about them for a long time. That's it.
Cool, thank you. And on OPA Update eBlast, as everyone knows, that continues to go out twice a week. I will be continuing to sort of man the helm on that, but could always use assistance. I encourage everyone, please text or email me articles or information that you want to see posted on there. Sort of best practice for me to make it a little easier on me would be, please send a couple sentences of exactly how you think it should appear in the newsletter along with the link. I may revise it, but it just makes my job a lot easier in terms of getting that out. And readership continues to be between 60 and 65% open rate on every one, which is rough. It goes to almost 2,000 people now, so we get about 1,100 opens to each newsletter. Anybody else have anything else on communications?
I was just going to add that Chris and I are going to try to get together, and that might be one place where I support. I was trying to see if there was anybody else that wanted to volunteer with the new folks on the phone. I just didn't want to beat anybody to the punch. So
cool, thank you. Speaking of Chris, let's jump into member engagement and events. Chris is going to be spearheading this committee this year. Anything you want to share yet?
Yeah, for sure. So as Robbie mentioned, we're going to huddle to get together to talk about member engagement. The hope here is that we can do our first event in March. And then, get a monthly cadence to it. The ask here is, we do need help. It's a lift to plan these things every month, but we do want to be able to have a resource for all of our neighbors to get together. And we think that these, could be important tools in doing that. So really would appreciate, and it doesn't have to be board members. We're looking for some help from our neighbors too to help plan these, especially for myself as I'm in and out of town. It could be very simple. just coordinating with the, location ideas, things like that. So that's what we've got.
Cool, thank you. Anything to talk about regarding Heal the Bay, or Jeff, anything to talk about yet with 4th of July or anything else?
Not yet with the parade. Be pulling permits shortly. And then we could see which direction we're moving in.
Literally.
That's right.
Cool. Also, I'll just use this as an excuse to update quickly on sharing an open Main Street before I hand the floor to Joey to ask a question. Main Street Business Merchants Association at their meeting last week has said they're definitely planning to push for multiple street closures this summer. Still discussing what the right number or cadence is, probably 3 or 4, probably once a month, but that they're looking for as much support as OPA has available for that. For most of us probably remember, it was a big lift 2 years ago, but wildly successful, at least in my own personal opinion, and excited to see that it may be coming back. I don't think there's any action we need to take on that today, but just heads up in terms of remembering.
So how is Hunter going to get the funding?
That's TBD. That's for them to figure out how to make it self-sustainable.
Okay, Dave would be happy to help anyone who would like to do a Heal the Bay. He knows exactly what to do, and if you want to get in contact with him, he will help you with that.
Awesome. Great. Joey, you had your hand up.
Yeah, hi everyone. Just wanted to follow up with Chris and Robbie and let you know that I would love to help out in that area with you guys. So I'm a community member here. I've spoken to Sean recently about wanting to get more involved. So yeah, let me know, and I'm here. Love to be a part of it with you guys.
Joey, are you a member of OPA?
Yeah, I'm just about just getting started. So that's why I'm here today.
Because I'm the membership chair and I don't recognize your name.
Yeah, brand new. I just spoke to Sean last week, so he invited me in, and this is my first time. So my plan here is to join and to get more involved. So
okay,
yeah.
good.
So nice to meet you.
Patty. I'm the
Nice
one
to
who
meet you,
takes
Patty,
care
and
of it.
everyone else. I've been listening in, and happy to be here.
Thank you for leaning in.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you. I just dropped my email in the chat there. If you want to shoot me an email, and then we can connect.
Sounds great. I'll get right on that. Thanks.
Cool. Anything else on member engagement? Cool. Patty, bylaws.
Yeah, hi. All of you on the board should have received a 2 and a little bit more page abbreviated bylaws for OPA for you to peruse. And these were the items that are the most important things for you to know. Now, because it's so late in the year, I'm not going to plan a training session because I believe you can all read over these bullets. It's a bullet point. It's 2 pages. Just go over the whole thing. If you have a question about the OPA bylaws, please email me and I'll be very happy to answer. But in upcoming years, I would very much like to have new members, new board members, go over these so they know what is to be done and how it's to be done. So if you did not receive it, let me know and I will happily send you another copy. Okay.
Thank you. Cool. That concludes committees. Shifting over into task forces. Main Street is first on the list here. I know I already brought up sharing an open Main Street. One thing we need to do is figure out exactly who's on the committee, on the task force and who's chairing it. I've had a few community members who couldn't be here today who said they're interested in being involved on that. It's always a popular one given everything that's going on. So one of my sort of to-do items tonight is figure out who would like to be on that. Is there any names that I need to be aware of that haven't already reached out to me? Cool. I will follow up with the people that have reached out and try and help get them on a regular cadence of meetings to figure out next steps with Main Street. I'll get to you in one sec, John. In terms of updates, you've seen plenty of in the newsletter, but lots of things happening on Main Street, depending on your perspective, either good or bad with the zoning issues, which we'll probably talk about a little bit more as the meeting and weeks progress. Some openings coming. It looks like John helped us figure out that Jinya Ramen is supposed to be opening up next week, give or take. Good to have that back, especially as it's a cold spell coming this week. So lots going on along Main Street. John, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was. Is there another scheduled meeting of the Main Street Committee? We're going to meet at some point in the next.
That's one of the things I'm going to be reaching out to you and a few other people that have said they'd like to be on that committee and get a regular monthly meeting on the books there. One of the priorities for this year with all of the committees and task forces is to say, hey, here's the date and time every month for a set meeting for people so there's something benchmarked in the calendar.
Yeah, we need to get money, right? That's finding a grant writer. I mean, we talked about this, but now it's clear as day that if we want to be able to close Main Street and help Hunter or do it on our own, we're going to have to find our own money. So
agreed. So I will definitely be following up after the meeting on trying to help the Main Street Task Force get a schedule in order there.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Moving on from Main Street to arts. I believe I've got Chris and Nick written down so far on Arts Task Force. Is there anyone else who wants their name to be there as well?
Oh, sorry. I jumped the gun.
Hey, Nick, maybe this is good though. We might be able to convince some folks to join us with all the work that we've laid out here.
Yeah, go for it, Nick.
All right. Hi guys, good to see you. Chris and I have actually met twice now. I hope everybody can see my screen. So just quick update. We're going to be focusing on the lower hanging fruit, supporting art being done within Ocean Park. We also want to find ways to support artist residents that live in Ocean Park. So I think it's easy for us to say, hey, how can we get art in Ocean Park more? But we also want to try to identify our residents that are artists as well and support them. We met with Art of Recovery, who is the organization that provided us with the grant to do a lot of the K-Rail or all of the K-Rail murals. They have a fair amount of money. We're a preferred vendor, a producer, if you will, of theirs. So we put together a list of some things that we were looking to work with them on. And the first, we wanted to look at what were we considering, so we could hone in a little bit. They have an existing list of projects that have been submitted by artists that they've essentially given a soft approval to. So we wanted to look through that, rather than recreating the wheel. We also wanted to try to find opportunities that weren't just focused on Main Street. I think, we obviously all agree that Main Street is an amazing thoroughfare, but we have other parts of Ocean Park. So looking at, how we can add art within our whole neighborhood, not just on Main Street. There's some opportunities for collaboration as we look at Lincoln Boulevard specifically. How can we collaborate with some of the other neighborhood groups or just the producers on projects? And then looking at non-painting projects. Art is not limited just to murals and paintings, but there's performance art. There's a lot of different things we could do. So we took those filters and then jumped down and came up with 6 kind of recommendations back to the Art of Recovery folks. They're their funding won't begin again until fall. So we're looking forward to the end of the year. The 6 kind of ideas that we went back to them with were meter planter installations. So you'll see that there are a lot of parking meters that are no longer functioning because of right now, it's outdoor dining. Hopefully that will continue. So how can we turn those non-operative meters into some sort of art, whether it's terrariums, potted plants, installations. So we're looking at that. There was one submission that Art of Recovery already gave us that was repurposing Big Blue bus stops. But other than that, we're just looking at any potential artist that could do that. The other one, and this is something Chris had really kind of pushed, was a welcome to Ocean Park. There's the big wave at the east entrance to Santa Monica on Wilshire Boulevard. We wanted to look if there was a way for us to welcome people very clearly to Ocean Park, whether that's at the intersection of Lincoln and Ocean Park, the southern end of Main Street, the intersection or the southern or northern ends of Main Street that we're looking at, as well as the intersection of Lincoln and Pico. So we'll look to, see if there's any opportunity there. There's also a Lincoln Boulevard collaboration. There's an existing proposal for Art of Recovery to do storefront graphics along Lincoln Boulevard, starting in downtown. If that's something they move forward with, we would love to be a part of that. One person on the Art of Recovery had put together an AR scavenger hunt. We thought that might actually be a cool opportunity for us in Ocean Park that's really resident focused to understand, whether it's a scavenger hunt or a tour of classic homes in Ocean Park. We have our historic 3rd Street corridor, but how can we get us residents exploring our own neighborhood a little bit more and understanding all of our history? I think Mark Gorman, I'm not sure if he's still on, has that great weekly newsletter that puts out a lot of history of Ocean Park. So that would be a potential wrap into that. Still, of course, just something that we identified. There's also performance opportunities that we'd like to look into as a priority for ours. I think 18th Street Center had suggested the Fellow Kute Day, where we're looking at other performances. And then a member of ours, Richard Orton, is obviously looking into this POP memorial. We're currently in conversations with him on how we can support him. He's working with the Parks and Recs Commission for a letter of support. Once that's complete, Chris and I will take a look and see if there's an opportunity for OPA to have a similar letter of support and what those other opportunities are. This is still, everything is very much in its infancy. As I mentioned, we're looking towards, fall at the earliest. So outside of that, we will focus working on with Richard with the POP Memorial, but we meet every second Thursday, 6 p.m. at Tavern on Main. So feel free to join us. Chris and I will be there chit-chatting, and hopefully, you guys can count on us being there. Come hang out and help us determine what the priorities are and how we can move forward before we present to the board on some additional recommendations. Chris, what did I forget?
Nick, I think you covered it all. Great job. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that the Santa Monica Conservancy is already looking at having new tours of the 3rd Street area, starting from the Shotgun House. And you may want to get in touch with the Conservancy on some of this stuff, especially with the POP and other things, because they're trying to branch out into more specific tours of areas. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, we would love to include that.
We also want to get Mark Gorman to put his stuff into the Shotgun House, and just waiting for someone to get together with him, because those things he does are terrific.
They're awesome.
They're awesome.
Nick, what I probably would have added, or should have added rather, was just so everyone understands, we're looking at fall because funding's not available, but they're doing their budget now for next fiscal year. So everything seems kind of far off, but we have to get in our ideas and start to put budgets behind this stuff so that we're able to secure some of that money as a production partner. If we don't do it now, then we're going to be looking towards July of 24 will be the next time we can get something from that. And Mark worked really hard to get us as that production partner. So even though he's not in our neighborhood anymore, we can, you know, pay honor to him.
Cool, thank you. Jeff, you have your hand up.
So this was for Nick. You mentioned welcome to Santa Monica, welcome to Ocean Park. Don't forget the one at Pico and 4th where all the traffic from the freeway comes off. And so people don't come flying down 4th Street into our neighborhood. They should know it's the Ocean Park neighborhood.
You're gonna get a street sign that pointed towards your house.
Come right this way.
Speaking of traffic, Halima wanted to have someone from the traffic department speak tonight at the meeting, but as we can already tell, because it's 8:30 and we're still midway through the agenda that we're really long, so I asked her to please wait till next month. So we'll probably have a longer discussion on that next month.
Sean, they're stuck in traffic. Yes.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Let's jump over to diversity. I can't wait to see what Ian and Nick and Judy present for that one.
Hey, Sean, Jerry has his hand raised too, just by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Jerry.
Yeah, thanks. I just thought it would be really cool if you extended an invitation for the new city's cultural affairs director, who I read in the Daily Press is coming in after years of good service by Shannon Daught, who was a wonderful person that worked with the Arts Commission and did so much stuff. I thought it would be interesting to hear from her about all those things, about art and music and culture and everything.
Yeah,
So-
she's been involved with the Art of Recovery. So through the Arts Task Force, we definitely will continue to be engaged with her. But I'm excited to work with her as well, Jerry. I think she brings a wealth of experience.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
to have her come to speak to either a Wednesday OPA event or one of your board meetings. I thought it would be pretty cool.
Great idea. Thank you. I just wrote it down on my list of potential speakers. Cool. Ian, I know you have a few things to share.
Yeah, first of all, Sean, do you have the flyer that we can distribute?
Yep, happy to screen share that.
So everybody, as part of efforts to encourage diversity, we are trying, the Diversity Task Force is trying to support the Santa Monica Black Lives Association event honoring Black History Month, which is on, let me get the date, which is on Saturday, February 25th from 4 to 10 p.m. And the flyer there, which hopefully we can distribute to you, lists some of the events that are going on. Is going to be music and dance, an education exhibit, a celebrity panel discussion, talking about the impact of African Americans on the entertainment industry, and a variety of other things. There are also volunteer opportunities. And so we'd like to encourage board members, or anybody who's listening to this to lend them some support. Sean, I have a little bit of a problem. My computer is not working well on the internet tonight, so I'm on my phone. I can't see. Does this flyer, it's got a web address, I think, that people can access. Can they see it?
I don't see that on the flyer, but we can put it in the chat.
Okay. I'm trying to find where it is. Anyway, the idea is to support the event as much as possible. Judy, Nick, and I are lending them some support, and I hope others will do that as well. Any questions?
Cool. Jerry, you have your hand up.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great thing to do. I just noticed on the flyer, maybe you could clarify, but this seemed strange. I don't know. I know a lot of people in the community are about the paintball. Are you talking about like the guns that shoot people and stuff like that? Because I know there was a real
I don't-
campaign against that over the
I'm
years.
looking at something that came from them with a listing of events. Jerry, I don't see any. I didn't notice anything that said paintball.
Well, it's
It
on the
does-
flyer.
The flyer does say paintball experience. I think
I mean, that's,
I'm thinking it's probably not what you think of, since it's since
I can find out about it, Jerry, and I'll try and come back to you. But at this point, I can't say I know it. You're the first person I must have missed seeing it.
well, yeah, I think there'd probably be a lot of people in the community that wouldn't like to see that and thinks, you know, it encourages violence and stuff like that, and, you know, just different things over the years. People have
Yeah.
spoken out about these toy guns and.
Yeah,
paintball,
no,
like that.
I don't disagree with you at all. I still can't see it, but I don't want to take up time here now. I'll take a look at it offline.
Right.
But thanks for pointing that out.
Sure, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions either on that, or Judy or Nick, anything else to add on this task force? Great. If anybody is interested in joining this task force, they're doing some really good, important stuff for the community. You know, our history is not as pretty as we'd like it. As we'd like to remember it was. And so please feel free to reach out to any of them to get involved. Renters, Robbie and Nick again. Handing off the president's cap. He's got time to be on a bunch of committees and task forces. Until the kids start crawling.
I think we had our meeting in January, and the takeaway from that is we're both going to continue to work on this task force. Our next meeting will be this month. We haven't met yet, and we should have more updates. It is third Thursdays, Robbie. Do I have that? No, we're Monday night. Sorry, we're meeting with third Mondays at Stella Barra at 6 p.m.
That's right.
So we will be talking about how we can disseminate information, and we're also, I think that's really it. And I think it's all day happy hour on Monday nights at Stella Barra also. So that was strategically chosen.
And by the way, everyone, my plan is to make sure to highlight when all of these meetings are in the newsletter just in the week beforehand. So expect to see reminders there. Also plan on trying to continue to highlight what the various committees and task forces are working on in the newsletter. So I'll be hitting any of you up that are involved in them to give me a blurb every once in a while so that we can be highlighting that there. So thank you. The next item of business, and I know we're running super long, so thank you everyone for continuing to pay attention here, because we do have a few more important things is new task forces. One area that I'm excited to hear has gotten a lot of attention is around all things education. Christina joined the board this year, who's super involved in the PTA and has done a good job of already pulling together a few non-board members and some former board members like David Ach and Margaret Valese, who lives down the street from me, who some of you may know, and a couple others. So I'm going to say, Christina, any thoughts on sort of what the areas of focus are, what you're hoping to accomplish, what people can do?
Yeah, we have a little committee going. Virginia, who's here tonight, also has thrown her name in. And I know Margaret is also trying to get another a Smash parent, Mila, involved, so which is kind of great. You know, the original kind of focus was making sure that we get a neighborhood school to return at the John Muir Smash location and working with SMMUSD. But there's other things that also we'll be probably taking a look at. For instance, there's water intrusion at Will Rogers now. And since that's where most of the Muir kids went, that's pretty upsetting. but then, and also just the things that have affected the families and the smallest residents in Ocean Park. A lot of the stuff from the city, funding was cut and has never been, they've not been able to bring things back, and some things will never get back. They won't bring back, playground access. But I think it's important that our neighbors realize that we used to have these things, we no longer have them. We might have something different in the future, but we have to ask for it. Even when there's no money, so then it's on a list for when there's money later. Things like crossing guards, and library programming for families. That's a huge missing thing from our Ocean Park library. So, and we are going to be meeting the second Friday of the month at noon. But for anybody on the committee or not on the committee that wants to know what's going on, we can have ad hoc meetings also. That's just kind of we had to choose a normal time, and that's the time. So thank you.
Cool. Oh, thank you. And not to put you on the spot, Virginia, but if you're up for it, would love for you to take 30 seconds just to introduce yourself and say hi to everybody. But
Because your email was amazing. I'm so excited to meet you.
Oh, thank you. My name is Virginia Morcourt. I'm actually an architect and been practicing for 24 years. My husband and I moved here during August of COVID. So we are new, but not new, and trying to figure out ways to get involved. So because I am an educational architect, I practice and work with school districts. I wanted to try to somehow put my knowledge, connect that with the community and see how we can get involved. So thank you.
No, thank you.
May I also suggest you become a member of OPA?
We are. I know I paid my dues, so if maybe something changed, let me know. But I know I paid dues.
Okay, I don't recognize the name, but okay,
yeah.
Cool. Next, yes, John.
I'd like to be on that committee.
Cool.
Okay, you're on. I'll add you. Thank you.
Let me know where lunch is on Friday.
Gotcha.
Thank you, John. Next one that I want to talk about is a hot button one. It's sort of real estate / zoning. A number of people have, over the past year, I don't think I need to explain how much attention has come to this topic, and we have not figured out yet exactly how to be a productive voice or force in that conversation, in part because there isn't a consensus on a lot of the issues. There's YIMBYs, there's NIMBYs, and there's everything in between. And a lot of smart people don't really understand a lot of what's going on, or a lot of the minutia, and even many of us in this room. But I think there's enough sort of, this is an important enough issue that if we don't at least figure out if and how to address it, we're doing a disservice to ourselves. And so want to see who's interested in being on this task force and figuring out what is the right path forward for OPA here. And don't have to speak up right now, but please follow up with me, because I've had a couple people, including I believe Mark and Joey, who are new here, who have expressed interest in getting involved, and I'm going to use that as a quick excuse to let them give a 30-second introductions as well, just so we get to know each other better. If you're up for it, no pressure. Joey or Mark Fleischer? If you're not up for it, that's cool.
Wait, what am I doing? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you're up for giving a quick introduction to us all about yourselves.
Oh, sure. Well, I actually been an OPA member now. Well, Patty can probably figure out exactly how long, but for a while. I dip in and out because I am an event producer, and I am also an owner of a lighting company. So there's quite frequently, conflicts. But when I can, I join the Wednesdays and this. I haven't been active in any of the programs, but I was just exchanging private communications with Nick because I wanted to help out with the arts related projects, because I've been actually very involved in the arts in Santa Monica, because I was the technical director for Glow Santa Monica in 2008, 2010, and 2013. That's kind of my expertise anyway, the live production and lighting and sound and those kinds of things. So I think that might be a good way for me to help. So I already pinged Nick, and he gave me his email, so I'll be helping out on that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for joining.
So thanks for putting the pressure on, but I already responded.
Joey, I know I introduced you briefly before. You're muted, but please say a quick hello.
Sorry, I'm having troubles with the button. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I know I said a little bit before, but I had reached out to Sean from something because I was reading the new newsletters, followed you on social media. That's how I started to learn about the organization. Moved here about 3 years ago from Hollywood with my girlfriend and my little poodle. And I have been in music for about my whole life. I was in a pretty big touring band. And so I guess, I initially reached out because I've attended, all of I live about a block from Main Street over here. And I've attended all of the stuff that's been put on here, and just trying to get involved with the community more. And I did mention that I would be interested in helping out if needed in the real estate, because I have been a realtor now as well for about just about a year and a half. So I'm fairly new, so I don't know how much I could offer, but I may be able to have some resources to help in that department as well. But yeah, if we're looking for events to put on and stuff like that, I know a lot of people in entertainment, music, things like that, that maybe I could help be a resource to add to the community in terms of events and things like that as well.
Cool.
I'm open to get involved in general. So, I got a lot of extra time on my hands right now. So if I can be of help in any way, just reach out.
Awesome.
I'll put my info in the chat as well. Thanks.
No, thank you for reaching out and leaning in.
Sure.
Next up is homeless. Sorry, John.
So I'm sorry, can we just step back for a minute and talk about housing? In that committee? I know there was some interest in maybe putting the group together. I think now is the right time for that because changes are coming fast and they're coming quick. You heard Councilmember Torosis say we should have a voice. So I would like to just encourage everyone to say, yes, now's the time to figure out what we want to present, as a neighborhood organization about what our future looks like. And we have a pretty diverse crowd here. So I'm all for, as many people as possible getting into this group to try to figure out what the way forward is.
Good. Let me, I will take the action item to follow up with all the board members and other community members who've expressed getting involved here and try and facilitate a first meeting so we can get this going. Time's pressing on it, and I know we're already at 8:49, but we still have a housing real estate issue to discuss that will come up. So hopefully we can get to that quickly as well. Two other possible task forces to talk about homelessness. Nick and Robbie, anything to talk about yet there?
Nick, did you step away or?
No, I'm here. I was
Okay,
just
cool.
gonna I don't know if you had anything you wanted to share. I can kind of give my 2 cents.
Well, no, you can go for it.
We're still kind of formulating it. We'll be meeting about it when we meet from a renter's perspective also. So at Stella on, like I said, I think it's the 3rd Monday, but we have, hopefully Sean got the email where I told him what day it was. So he'll be reminding me also. I think we're still formulating how we want to go about it. I know for me personally, the approach is how we can be supportive and how we can help the city reach some of its goals. I think there are a lot of services out there right now that our city and county provide, and we want to make sure that they're being used. so that when a resident says, hey, something's happening, they know who to call, when to call, how to get people those services. So a lot, on a micro level education, but we'll be formulating that. If you want to get involved, please meet us at Stella Barra on, I think, next Monday, 2 Mondays, whenever it is.
Awesome, thank you. And lastly, is something called Neighbor to Neighbor. Kathleen Mulcahy, who can't be here tonight, is starting to sort of see the ideas of how OPA can, better facilitate neighbors taking care of neighbors, especially when it comes to some of the elderly residents in the neighborhood who don't have a strong support network. So more to come on that. Anything else on task forces to talk about? Cool. Let's jump over to special agenda items. Hopefully we can get out of here before 9. I apologize. Meeting, and I will work on my time management better going forward. First thing on there is in-person meetings and shifting this meeting to being at a minimum a hybrid meeting. A few of us have talked about doing that next month in March and want to see if there's any feedback on that, concerns with that, etc. All right, I think people are tired. So assuming my plan is for us to try to find a location that can support a hybrid meeting next month, where we will set up in person with some food and drinks, and those that can join in person will, and those that can't. So stay tuned for that.
I'd like to suggest Lula. They have a great patio and they're familiar with us.
Yep,
we've used them.
Yep, planning on reaching out to Lula's and Alfalfa. Both have expressed interest. Sort of just have to check internet strength and reliability, especially for the hybrid. That's the biggest concern. Cool. I forwarded last week an email from David White about the city of Santa Monica's position regarding the Metro end of line policy. If you haven't read it, it's an important one. David has personally also reached out to me about saying he'd like to see letters of support from neighborhood organizations and other sort of voices of authority in Santa Monica on this subject, in terms of supporting stronger services available at end of lines. And what is meant by that, if you weren't able to read it, is Fourth and Colorado is obviously the end of the Metro line, and hundreds of people experiencing homelessness use the Metro lines and adjacent areas to sleep. And there's an effort to try and offer more support services at the end of the line, particularly at the end of the day, to try and get people off the street and get the support they need. And he's encouraging organizations like OPA to send in letters of support. I'd like to put that out to the floor quickly to see if anybody has any strong thoughts on this or concerns, before we see if anyone wants to make a motion that OPA does write a letter of support for that. Nick.
Yeah, I read the email that you sent, and I know he had sent it out in a few other forms.
You muted.
I was just confused on what the ask actually was. As I read through what was going on and what, the whole package, it seemed like there was a request to be involved, but even it seemed a little murky and wonky to me. And I obviously want to personally, want us to support it, but I was really unclear exactly what the ask was.
The
ask,
like
a letter of support, but for what?
Yeah, I felt the same thing and talked about him in person on that. And the ask is to write a letter to LA County Metro to expressing support of supplying services to more end of line services.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I also found it confusing. I don't know whether he did that deliberately, but
No, I don't think it was. I think there's just a lot going on. Mark, you have your hand up.
This is a system-wide. I read a LA Times article about this. It basically said that they want to deal with it all at every terminus of the line. So that makes perfect sense. So we're one of those. So that would make perfect sense that we'd be included in that. And it's county resources. So it's sheriff and homeless services and several other. They're just trying to stop the people from just coming off of the trains in the last run of the day and just staying wherever the trains end. So that makes good sense to me. So we're it's not like a major effort on our part. It's just to say it's a good idea.
Sean, if it would help, I'd make a motion that we draft such a letter.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Zach. This is something I think we can just do by affirmation. I'm hoping I see Patty nod her head up and down. Yay. All board members in favor of drafting such a letter, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? I'm assuming Zach and Nick had their hand up as a vote of yes. Good, they did, I think so. Any volunteers to draft this letter? Here's the tough part, work.
I'll do a first pass at it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. That's awesome. Really appreciate that. Cool. Last item on the special agenda list is the 26-27 Lincoln letter, also known as Gelson's project. John's put a bunch of time into drafting this letter. For those of you that aren't on the board, we've been circulating a letter amongst ourselves in terms of highlighting issues for the developers and the city to be thinking about as they're going forward with this. As we all know, we've talked about in the past, this is a by right project. There's not really a whole lot of advocacy for or against the project itself that we can realistically do. That's been the position we've taken, but we're hoping that we can at least weigh in on the areas of that concern us the most and that we want to flag and make sure they're thinking of. John, can I hand the floor over to you to share anything more on that and see if anyone else had any constructive criticism, feedback on what you've drafted?
Right. So it's basically the same letter that went out, a little earlier with some feedback. I know Patty had talked about buses, so that's definitely in there explicitly. The idea is to send this to the attorney that represents both the developer and the property owner. And it's really just about expressing our views in terms of what we'd like to see on the corner and what our concerns are, right? Traffic mitigation, places for bikes, that sort of stuff. That's what its intent is.
I do have a suggestion. I read it today and there's not a big mention of the Gelson project or Lincoln Boulevard, but there's a very large paragraph about Main Street, which I found to be a distraction in what we're trying to do with 26-27, which has nothing to do with Main Street. And I'm wondering whether or not that, well, I'm just wondering if that is necessary in a letter where you're trying to do Lincoln, because they're two different animals.
Did I forward the wrong letter?
No, I'm looking at the one that says Mr. Brand. It's the fourth paragraph down that has OPA has an excellent working relationship with the Main Street merchants, which I know that to be true, but I see that it has nothing really to do with Lincoln. That's just my opinion and my comment.
Yeah, we had talked about that in the past. No, I understand, Patty, about just to show that we, have the chops with the local business folks, right? That we pay attention, that we have their concerns in mind.
But I think it's more of a distraction against what we're doing for Lincoln, because there's more mention here of Main Street than there is actually a mention of the words Lincoln Boulevard. Because I looked at that as well. And I live near Lincoln, so it's more prominent for me than it would be for you to notice that. Because Lincoln is a terrible street. It has all kinds of problems. And we need to address those and not really bolster her up about what we did on a different street as much as what we need to do on this street, which is it's an awful project that's going on, and it's going to make this street very difficult to live on.
I did mention the Lincoln project, right, to make sure that they
Well, yeah, you did
bring
mention
that
it.
in, because that is the most important piece that they have to look at when it comes to traffic, is that Lincoln is going to be different between now and when the project's completed, right? So they need to understand from a traffic management perspective, a traffic
Correct,
flow
and
perspective.
right, and that's fine. Every single thing else in this letter has is fine. It's just that one big paragraph on Main Street. I just don't know why it's there and why it needs to be there. But if you feel it needs to be there, you wrote the letter. I'm just expressing my opinion.
Nick, did you want to weigh in on this or something else in the letter?
Just in the letter, I had 3 small little comments that I thought could make it a little more powerful. Similarly, in that 4th paragraph about Main Street, I thought the last sentence, I don't know that we need to say, and we see that in action every time we close Main Street to cars. I think that we have a really strong community in general, and I thought that adding that last part of that last sentence kind of takes away from that sense of community. In the first sentence in housing, we say, while all housing is good, I think I would strike that, because I think, again, it's such a takeaway from what we're trying to talk about, which is the increase in the number of affordable units. And I also think there's an opportunity, John, in the housing paragraph to talk about how building housing will actually help with our traffic congestion, especially as we're building economic, more affordable housing that will cut down on traffic in and out of the city. I believe 70% of traffic in the city is not from residents. So if we can have people that are coming in, I think that would be really impactful. And just as a point of my own edification, where we mentioned the Lincoln Neighborhood Corridor Plan, I know we've talked about it for a while, but I haven't seen that plan. Does anybody have it that could share it? Because I'd love to be more knowledgeable on it. But other than those 3 little changes, I think will make it stronger. I love that we're getting ahead of it and trying to be proactive with the development. So thank you for putting together, John, and anybody else that worked on it.
Any other comments or feedback? And unless it sounds like everyone's taking a look at it and feels pretty good overall. John, I'll defer to you if you want to sort of tighten up that paragraph 4 a little bit more. I think that just sort of interpreting everything. I think the intent from talking to John and others about this is to show, hey, we know how to work with businesses and that community. We're not just looking after, we're not just being sort of NIMBY here. We've collaborated with that association. We want to collaborate with you to make this, make whatever you're doing a more cohesive part of the neighborhood. I think that's the intent. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so maybe just, condense it, stand out as much. Assuming that happens. Yeah, please.
So Nick, your point number 3 was, can you restate that? You made it sound like, if there's more cars that move slower, it's safer. Did I?
No.
Sure
Just that so much of our traffic, I feel like the number I heard last, 70% was of people coming in to work, coming in for night stuff or long-term tourists. And that by having more affordable housing, that will have a positive impact on decreasing traffic. If we have more people that can have a shorter commute within the city, or they can ride their bike, they can walk, they can scoot, that just by building more affordable housing, it will actually be beneficial to decrease traffic congestion. And you kind of mentioned a little under the traffic circulation part, but I think it's an important aspect just for housing, that housing will help that as well.
Yeah, I'll think about how to make that a little deeper, Nick. That's I like that point. So that's a really good one.
in terms of next steps, I don't want to wait another month to get this approved. How do we sign off on this? Do we approve it in spirit now pending an update sent to the board? Any thoughts on that? I'm looking at Patty.
He's looking at Patty. For the most part, his letter is spot on. I think if he made some adjustments to it or some amendments, all he would have to do is put it out and we would just have to accept it because we've already said we're going to accept the letter. We just need to see the refinery.
Sean, I think as a matter of process, we can approve the letter in concept with the request that it's revised and exec board votes on the final form. And then us non-exec board people can just blame you guys.
Perfect.
If that's the way you want to do it. That's usually not how we have done it before, but if that's the way you want to do it, it's fine with me.
I'm good with that. Is that your nomination, Nick?
Yes, I move to approve the letter in concept and that the final revisions go to exec board for timely approval.
Okay.
Give a second.
I'll do it this weekend, I promise.
Thanks. You know I'll nag you. Do I have a second?
Zach seconds.
Awesome. All in favor?
Sure.
Any opposition? Cool. I'm gonna get you out of here in 2 minutes, everyone. Treasurer's report.
Okay, the treasurer's report are going to come out every January, April, July, and October, as requested by Sean to do it quarterly. And we'll go over the year in review at that time in April. So make enough time for me.
Thank you, Patty. Appreciate it. I will make sure I block appropriate time.
Okay.
Minutes. Do we have a nomination to approve the January minutes?
I know Robbie sent them out to you guys. Did you guys look at them at all?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Okay.
He wants to go to bed.
Motion.
Zach seconds.
Zach second. All in favor? Boom.
Aye.
Any opposition? Better be no. Good.
One more motion, please.
Sure.
Motion to adjourn.
Zach seconds.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry it was such a long meeting. I promise to get better next month.
Okay, less.
Was a good meeting.
Good night.
Thanks for all the content you
Less
organized, Sean.
guests.
Thanks,
Good
Sean.
first meeting, John. Good first meeting.